Alright, so hello everyone, welcome back to your mat. Today I thought I would do a short workshop style sort of flow class with a warm-up at the beginning and then a focus on some balancing poses. In particular, I'll focus on trying to offer you ways to modify poses to make them more accessible for you. And then just, know that you can always advance these poses and the transitions between and among poses as you get a little deeper into your practice. So we'll get started on our mats. Just come down into child's pose to start. So we'll send our hips back towards our heels. Just draw your forehead to your mat. If you have blocks handy, they might be nice for today's practice, or even a chair or a couch or a countertop nearby. We might use the wall a bit too. So any sorts of things to help you with stabilization as we come into some of the balancing postures. So you can maybe draw your forehead to a block. Maybe take your hands next to your feet, palms facing up. Sort of lengthening in the spine here. Maybe massaging your third eye center onto your mat or a block. Just beginning to ground and center yourself before we warm up. Draw your attention to your breath. And together we'll take a deep breath in through the nose. Fill all the way up. Feel the rib cage expand into the thighs. And then open your mouth and pretend you're fogging up that mirror. Inhale, big breath in through the nose. Open your mouth, fog it all out. This time, big breath in through the nose. Seal your lips here, exhale out. And take two more long, deep, slow inhalations and exhalations. Relax the face, maybe wiggle out the jaw. And then we'll just come up to hands and knees. Going through a few cat-cows. So inhale, drop the belly, lift the chin and the tailbone. And as you exhale, you round the spine. Drop your chin towards your chest, press the mat away. Inhale, lift the chin, open the heart. Exhale and round. Inhale, cow pose. Exhale and we round out the spine. From here, we'll tuck our toes, coming into our first downward facing dog. Fingers are spread wide. We're really pressing through the index finger and thumb knuckles. Spread the collarbone open, so take the upper arms and spin them out. Lengthen along the rib cage. Send your hips up and back. Maybe your heels reach for the floor. Maybe you keep the knees nice and bent. Really lengthening out the spine. Take a big breath in here. Exhale, let it go. Big breath in. And as you exhale, just walk yourself to the front of your mat. Forward fold here. Maybe take a rag doll and grab opposite elbows. And then inhale, we'll draw our hands to our thighs. Take the elbows to the back of the room. Lengthen the crown of the head forward. Take your gaze down to start. Draw the low ribs in. Exhale and you fold. Inhale, root the feet down. Rise all the way up to stand. Reach out and up. Palms touch at the top. Exhale, fold over your legs. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale and fold. Inhale, root down, rise all the way up. Exhale, fold forward over your legs. Inhale, lengthen the spine. Exhale, step back, high plank pose. Take 3 breaths here. Big breath in and out. Again, draw the low ribs in. Fire up the muscles. Lift the kneecaps. Squeeze the glutes. Send the heels over the balls of the feet. Press the mat away from you. On your next exhale, drop your knees. Send your elbows to the back of the room. Lower all the way down. Untuck your toes. Keep the hands planted near the ribs. Inhale, cobra. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, lift up. Exhale and you fold. Last one. Inhale, bhujangasana. Exhale, downward facing dog. Really nice. Inhale, rise up on the toes. Bend your knees, look forward and step to the front of your mat. Fold over your legs. Inhale, lengthen the spine. Exhale and fold. Inhale, rise all the way up. Exhale and you melt forward. Inhale and lift. Exhale, right toes to the back of the mat, coming into that low lunge. Take the feet nice and wide. Left knee is over left ankle. Draw the belly away from the thigh. Drop the back knee. Rise up, Anjaneyasana. Drag that left heel toward the back of your mat. Breath in here. Exhale, plant your hands down. Step back. High plank pose. From here you can lower the knees or stay lifted. You can lower all the way or halfway down. Chaturanga. Inhale, up dog, cobra, locust. Exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, rise up on the toes, bend your knees, look forward and make your way up to the top of your mat. Inhale and lengthen. Exhale and you fold. Inhale, root down, rise all the way up. Exhale, takes you back down. Inhale and flatten. Exhale, left toes to the back of the mat. Set yourself up, drop the back knee, rise up. Crane pose. Again, you want to take this right hip crease, pull it to the back of the mat. Imagine dragging the right heel to the back as you take the left thigh forward. Draw the low ribs in. Maybe you raise the arms high. On your exhale, plant your hands back. Step back and you go through your vinyasa flow. Downward facing dog. Really nice. Inhale, rise up on your toes, bend your knees, make your way forward. Fold over your legs. Inhale, lengthen the spine. Exhale and you fold forward. Inhale, root down, rise all the way up to stand. Just trying to build some heat here. Exhale, fold over the legs. Inhale and lengthen. Exhale, take your right toes to the back of your mat. Low lunge here. Fire up some energy in the thigh. Heel over the ball of your foot. Engage the core muscles. Rise up. Crescent lunge. Again, remember you can keep a bend in this back knee. Draw your low ribs in. Breath in here. Exhale, twist, open to the left. Right fingers reach to the front of the room. Left fingers reach back. Squeeze the hips together. Inhale, rise up. Exhale, step back. High plank pose. Through your vinyasa, we meet in downward facing dog. Rise up on your toes. Bend your knees. Make your way to the front of your mat. Inhale and lengthen. Exhale and you fold. Inhale, rise all the way up to stand. Exhale takes you down. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, left toes to the back of the mat. We rise up, crescent warrior. Big breath in here. Exhale, open arm twist. Left fingers to the front of the room. Right fingers stretch to the back. Squeeze the outer hips together. Inhale up. Exhale, plant your hands down, step back. And we make our way to downward facing dog. All right, from here, rise up on the toes. Bend your knees, make your way to the front of your mat. Inhale and lengthen. Exhale and you fold forward. Inhale, root down, rise all the way up to stand. Exhale, hands come to heart center. Samastiti. So take a moment here in your mountain pose, Tadasana, to really root down into the feet, to maybe lift all 10 toes, place them down. Stacking joints on top of one another. Roll your shoulders down and back. And we'll take a minute to come into tree pose, vrikshasana. So really in doing balancing poses, most of the structure of the pose comes from strength in the core muscles. So we're really using mostly abdominals, back, and glute muscles to maintain integrity in the postures when we come into standing balancing poses. So this is true in all of the balancing poses. So really it's much more important from an alignment perspective to sort of work on, you know, balance a little bit, but also gaining some structural support in this core cylinder around the torso. So coming into tree pose, we'll shift our weight into our left foot. So really spread the toes and root down into the left foot firmly. Begin to shift your weight into that foot. Maybe even power up the muscles in the quadriceps, the glutes. Pay attention to the belly. Maybe rotate the low edges of the ribs inward. And then from here, we take the sole of the right foot, either to your ankle, using the toes to help balance. And this is perfectly acceptable to just work this pose from right here. Or you can begin to root firmly into that right foot. Maybe you take, or your left foot, I'm sorry, maybe you take your right foot to the inside of the left calf. Maybe you stay here. Just focusing on balancing here. Squeeze the glutes together and use the sole of the right foot to press firmly into the calf. And if this feels okay, you can even use your hand to assist and draw the sole of the foot higher onto the thigh. As we come into tree pose, you want to avoid putting pressure anywhere around the knee. So you do not want to put the sole of the foot directly on the knee. And so here, I'm pressing firmly with the sole of my right foot into my left thigh, squeezing my glute muscles a little here, stabilizing my pelvis by stabilizing my abdominal muscles. And then maybe you grow your hand branches. And again, maybe you just take this here. You can, if you are next to a chair or a sofa or a wall, you can also practice coming into tree pose from the position of some support at the wall. So you can come in using the fingertips here lightly against a wall to sort of help you maintain balance. But really think about keeping the core muscles engaged, the glutes engaged, and pressing firmly into the soles of both feet as you come into tree pose. Take a big breath in. Exhale out. One more time, breath in. Exhale and release down. So we'll shake that out a little bit. And then we'll just try taking tree on the other side. So shifting the weight into the right foot. And again, taking this wherever is comfortable for you to start. Just knowing that the more you practice the poses, the more you will transition into, different degrees of what the pose looks like. So starting wherever is comfortable for you. And sometimes, it's really on these sort of one-sided balancing poses or one-legged poses, we find it, much more easy on one side than the other. That's certainly true for me. Anytime I'm supported on the floor with my right foot, that's my bad side. So, we're all different in that regard. Take a big breath in here. Again, keeping the core muscles tight. And if you begin to wobble, see if you can, come back into it if you fall out. Take a big breath in. Exhale, let it out. Another breath in. And then exhale, lower that foot down. Shake it out. So really, in addition to core stabilization, when you're doing balancing poses, the other really important key thing is the breath, right? You want to be able to find enough space in your version for you of your pose that allows you to at least take 2 to 3 full big breaths where you can really feel yourself melting into the pose for you. All right, from here we'll take a big breath in, reach the arms up. Exhale, fold over the legs. Inhale and lengthen the spine. Exhale, fold forward. Heel toe the feet out wide here. Take a deep bend in the knees. Take the peace fingers. We'll come into padagusthasana. Wrap them around the big toes. Let the head hang heavy. Take a breath in. Maybe you lengthen the spine out. Exhale, fold forward. Draw your elbows out to the sides of the room. Shake your head yes and no. And then release the bind if you have it. Heel toe your feet back together. And then root down through the feet. Rise all the way up to stand. Reach high. Exhale, hands to heart center. So we'll move on to eagle pose. So garudasana is often started from chair pose, although you don't have to be in chair pose. But really one of the key things about going into eagle pose is that you really want to sit the hips down and back. You really want to, often starting from chair pose is a good place to start because it forces us to start from a very seated position. You want to send the hips down and back. So if we take a breath in and then exhale, send the hips back as though we're in chair pose, then again, begin to shift the weight into your left foot, coming onto the toes of the right foot. And then from here, we take the right leg over the left, crossing the legs together. And from here, you can just send the right toes down to the mat, or you can begin to wrap the right leg around the left. Wherever you are, regardless of whether you're here or completely wrapped, you want to squeeze the outer thighs together, set the hips down and back, draw the low ribs in just a little bit, and maybe you stay here and just work on this balance Alternatively, right leg over left, right arm under. If you want to take the arm bind along with it, you can just give yourself a big hug if your shoulders are tight, or you can continue to wind and draw the palms together. So if you're coming into this full eagle version, sitting the hips down and back, eventually you might have open enough shoulders that you can sort of reach the hands up and away from the face. And again, you can work on the upper part of the pose and the lower part of the pose independently. Go ahead and unwind. Take a big breath in. Roll the shoulders, exhale out. And we'll try this on the other side. I'm going to turn sideways so you can see from here. So I'll sit my hips down and back, coming into chair pose. And then this time the left leg comes over the right. And again, you can just set the toes down on your mat and sink the hips down and stay right here. Or you can begin to wrap the left foot around the calf of the right foot, setting the hips down and back. Maybe lift the chest a little bit. Squeeze everything in as tight as you can and press into that right foot. That'll root you down. And then from here we take left arm under, so switch your grip. And we wrap the arms. Maybe on the breath in, we lift our elbows. Exhale, draw the hands away from the face and sit back. Go ahead and unwind. Inhale your hands high. Exhale them out. So again, you can always take the arms and just wrap them this way and then switch. You can always take the leg modification and balance with using the toes. But again, the key to this pose is to really keep the core cylinder engaged, the hips steady, squeeze the hips together with the legs crossed, send the hips down and back. So sitting down and back will stabilize you, and then draw, squeeze everything. Really nice. So we'll go over a couple other balancing poses. Let's go through a little flow, and then we'll come into balancing half moon or ardha chandrasana. So we'll start at the tops of our mat. Take a big breath in as you inhale your hands high. Exhale, fold over your legs. Inhale and lengthen. Exhale, step back, high plank pose. Go ahead and take yourself through a flow. So either lower the knees down or keep them lifted. Shift the weight forward. Come into either chaturanga, lower halfway, or all the way down. Take a back bend of choice. Exhale, downward facing dog. From here, we'll go ahead and lift the right leg high, coming into three-legged. Exhale, draw your knee towards your nose, plant your right foot between your feet, and we'll rise up into crescent. From here, if you have blocks handy or you're near a chair, you might want to place these in front of you. We'll come into airplane pose first, so dekasana, which is a balancing pose. We'll shift our torso over our right thigh, coming into this thunderbolt lunge. So here, right knee is stacked over right ankle, glutes are squeezed, left leg is really engaged. We can take our hands out behind us, and from here we begin to shift the weight into the right foot and lift the left foot up. You can bring the hands to heart center. And what you really want to do here is keep the hips squared to the mat, right? And so if you have blocks handy, you can bring your hands to blocks for support. Squeeze the belly in. And maybe you lift the chest just a little here. Inhale, opening the heart a little bit. And then from here we can transition. We'll just step back. We'll take a little stretch first. So step back into pyramid pose. So both sets of your toes are pointing forward. Yeah, maybe use your hands on blocks. Take that right hip and pull it back. Inhale, lengthen the spine. Exhale, fold over that right leg. Getting a nice stretch in the right hamstring. Really nice. And then go ahead and bring your left foot to meet your right. We're just going to come into dekasana or airplane pose on the left side. And this time we'll just come into this pose from the position of our feet together. So you can rise up here, take a breath in, and then exhale, begin to fold forward, taking hands to the floor, to the blocks to start with. So lightly placing the palms of the hands here, shift the weight into the right foot, shift the weight into the left foot, right limbs lift. And then from here, again, you want to take the internal part of the thigh and rotate it in towards the middle of your mat. Draw the belly in, squeeze the glutes in that left leg. And you can stay here, you can draw the hands to heart center. Maybe you send your wings out behind you. And then from here, right foot meets the left. Shaking it out. This time we're going to come back into airplane pose, but we're going to shift into balancing half moon. So I'm going to take my blocks to the other side of my mat. So from here, take a breath in. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, take your hands to your blocks if you have some, or a chair would be good here as well. And then from here, shifting the weight into the right foot, we begin to lift the left limb. Now, from this position coming into half moon, you'll use one of your blocks. We're basically going to open and stack the hips here. So take your right hand to a block or the mat below your right shoulder. Right toes are pointing forward, and you can take a bend in the right knee here. And then you'll just begin to turn the left toes toward the left side of your mat. So stacking your left hip over your right. And then maybe you take the hand up, reaching for the ceiling. Coming into balancing half moon. If this is too much, you can always open the hips. Maybe you take your hand to your hip and keep your gaze down towards your mat. That'll provide you a little bit more balance here. And again, push firmly into the right foot. Take a breath in. And then exhale, we fold over our legs. Inhale, rise up. Exhale, hands to heart center. So as you come into balancing half moon, you can keep the hand on your hip, and the hips are somewhat stacking, although they won't be completely stacked on top of one another, and that's okay. Toes are usually pointing out in a lateral position to the outside of your mat, and you're pressing firmly into that supporting leg, even if it has a slight bend in the knee. So we'll try this on the other side. And again, blocks are really handy here. So we'll inhale the hands high. Exhale, fold over your legs. Inhale, hands come to blocks. And we press into the left foot. Right foot lifts. Again, bend in that left knee. From here, we transition to using one block. So the palm becomes situated. You might have to move your block so it's situated under the left shoulder. And then we open up, spin the toes out, stack the hips. Hand can come to a hip. Really flex the foot, sending that back lifted foot toward the back of the room. Really squeezing the glutes, pressing down. And maybe you keep your gaze down toward the mat. If your balance feels good here, then maybe you begin to float the right arm high. Maybe take your gaze out. Maybe even take your gaze up to the ceiling. Take a big breath here. And exhale out. If you're comfortable here and you have this down, your next move might be to begin to see if you can hover the left fingertips off of your block or off of the floor. And then you fold forward over your legs. Inhale, rise all the way up to stand. Exhale, hands to heart center. So we've gone through tree pose, eagle pose, airplane pose, and half moon. And there's other standing poses. For the sake of time, the last thing I'm going to talk about today is hand to big toe pose. So this is a pose that we use to from a standing position, often transitioning from other standing balancing poses into this one, or using this as a jumping off point to transition into some other balancing poses. You might use this as a starting point for coming into, let's say, dancer pose, or some other standing balancing pose, which we'll go over in a different class. So from here, coming into Tadasana, shifting your weight into your left foot. Once again, we just draw the right knee up toward the chest. Maybe taking a flexion in the foot, or pointing the toes and then pointing the foot and then flexing the toes, spreading the toes. And then being careful not to dump into the right hip, but rather lifting up, keeping our hips level, keeping our belly tight, keeping our hips squeezing. And then from here, you can either just grab onto the shin, or if you have the flexibility and the range, you can take the fingers to your big toe and come to here. And you can always just stay here, work on balancing from this perspective. If you have this, you can begin to straighten the front foot. And then maybe, maybe eventually you open this up. Knowing also that even here, as you're holding the shin, if you're coming to this position, you can go to a wall. And from here, you can just open the hip out here. So really gaining some opening from the hip joint, lifting of the quadriceps, squeezing the muscles together, practicing the balance just from this point. Or you can begin to come here, and you can keep the knee bent as well as you open out to the side. Release that down, shake it out. And then we'll try it on the other side. So you'll shift the weight into your right foot, begin to lift the right knee. So we're stretching, lengthening through the side body, taking the crown of the head, lifting out of that left hip, pressing firmly into the left foot, squeeze the belly, squeeze the glutes. Maybe you stay here. This is working enough, right? Alternatively, you can take the peace fingers around the big toe. Maybe you just stay here. And again, you can begin to play with extension of the leg, opening of the hip, taking this out, maybe lifting the arms. So any variation is a good place for working core strength and just practicing working to balance on one leg. What we don't want to do in this position is to lift here. And so if you're working on extension and you find that as you straighten the leg, you round the back, you don't want to do that, right? So you want to only take this as far as you can take it to maintain length in the spine. So if you're going for extension, you also need to keep a tall spine as you do it, right? So we don't want to slump forward. We want to stand tall. Really nice job. Go ahead and make your way to the top of your mat. We'll go through one last vinyasa flow. And then we'll come into a light little stretch. So inhale your arms high. Exhale, fold over your legs. Inhale, lengthen the spine. Exhale, plant your hands, high plank pose. Take a big breath in here. Exhale out. And then from here, you can either go through a flow or we'll just meet in downward facing dog. Taking a big breath here. Open your mouth, release. One more big breath in through the nose. Open your mouth and let it go. Go ahead and just come down to the knees and come take a seat. We'll extend the legs out long. Flexing the feet here. Maybe removing some of that flesh from your sit bones. Sit up nice and tall. Reach up high. Exhale, maybe you begin to walk the hands forward. So again, we're hinging here from the hip creases. So the back is nice and long. You're sending your sit bones behind you and folding from the hips, not from the waist. So not from here, but from here. Lift up, lift out. Take a big breath in. And then on your exhales, you just begin to melt yourself into the pose. Inhale, walk the hands back up. Exhale, plant your feet. Grab the backs of your thighs and just slowly roll down to your mat, one vertebrae at a time. Take the legs out long. Draw the right knee into the chest. Maybe circle the ankles. And then from here, we'll take the left hand to the outside of the right knee. Just draw, maybe send the hips to the right just a little bit and draw that right knee over the body. If it's okay on the neck, you can take your gaze to the right. Just coming into a supine twist. We'll come back through center and we'll switch it out. So right leg goes long, left leg comes up, squeeze it in. Exhale, draw that left knee across the body, taking another twist over to the right. Come back through center. Both knees to your chest. Give yourself a little hug. Maybe rock side to side. And then from here, we'll just take a happy baby. So you can reach for the backs of the thighs, the ankles, or maybe you begin to reach for the insides or outsides of the feet. Draw your knees towards your armpits. I really like to press the soles of my feet toward the front of the room to lengthen out my spine, drawing my tailbone down toward the mat. Maybe rock side to side here as well. And go ahead and release. Take your legs out long. Take your feet wide on the mat. Let your feet flop open. Take your arms out wide. Draw your eyes to close. Take a big breath in. And exhale out. Shavasana. As always, you can stay in Shavasana as long as you like. If you're ready to move on, you can begin to wake up the fingers and toes, wiggle them around. Reach your arms up overhead, take a full body stretch. And then exhale, roll over to one side. And you'll slowly begin to make your way to a comfortable seated position. Drawing our hands to heart center. Gratitude for our practice. I thank you all for joining me for this little balancing workshop this afternoon or this morning or whatever time it is wherever you are. And until we meet again, together we say Namaste.